At some point, Democrats may have to consider whether they are prepared to accept a package that keeps getting smaller. Right there. That's it. Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. Alright guys, we have a major development to cover on this episode of the Bullet Points this morning. Now, as we await the fabled gun control talks legislation, the bill's going to come out. It might not come out. It'll probably be this week. But what I want to focus on this morning is there's starting to be rumors and little murmurs of disappointment in the bill to the point where the Democrats might not be able to support it. The article I'm about to show you covers this tone change from CNN. It's linked in the description box below, and we've been talking about this for a couple of days on this channel. Keep in mind, the Democrats have an obligation to the far left to take ARs, to take bans, to infringe on the Second Amendment. In the middle, if they only get conversations around mental health, school safety, and potential funding for red flag laws, they may have to walk, and then the onus goes on them because they shut it down. This is the game of politics in Washington, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. Like I said, everything linked in the description box below. Send this out because there is a tone shift that is happening, I'm telling you. And if you guys are new, we need as many people to jump in the fray as possible. We'd love to earn that subscription. Turn that bell on so you get the most up-to-date news. So when stuff drops, like the SCOTUS decision or this bill, you can be the first one to know. All right, let's dive into this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let's get it. All right. The Senate's ambition for gun reform ebbs as horror haunts those left behind after mass situations. That's very similar to what we said. This is an article this morning in CNN. Let me show you what they're talking about because this is actually very accurate of what's happening. The ambition of the Senate's response in situations of Uvalde, Texas, and Buffalo, New York is ebbing by the day, even as harrowing new details emerge of the horror of the situation. Of course, it was a horrible situation. No one is arguing that point. While there are still hopes of bipartisan agreement on a narrow package, the magnitude of the terror is clearly not being matched by political will to stop it from happening again. So that's CNN trying to bring political force to bear. But listen to how the article changes. But a familiar political dynamic is beginning to unfold. As days pass after the latest act of terror, the momentum for a quick and meaningful political response to change gun laws slows as Capitol conservatives, some with presidential ambitions that depend on the Republican base, narrow the scope for any reform. Now, one of the big things is hurry up and do something. You got to do something. You got to act. All the momentum, all the energy, you got to act. That's what they've been saying for about a week and a half. They're noticing that as time rolls on, everyone is starting to look at this less emotionally. I would say less emotionally and more rationally. And that's why you're seeing that everything narrow, which we've talked about. It's when you're going to lose Dems and you're going to lose the right because all the details of where everything happens. Let's keep going because this is a really important update. After days of calls for victims' relatives to do something, there is still optimism that some kind of deal that would draw sufficient GOP senators to overcome the chamber's filibuster blockade can be worked out. There's a chance that Congress may make it a little slower for 18 to 21-year-olds to buy a weapon, but both of the people were carried out by 18-year-olds who bought their assault weapons legally. And there is still debate among a small bipartisan group of senators over encouraging states to pass red flag laws that could help authorities confiscate guns from people considered a threat. So in this article, CNN is even saying, hey, the red flag law might not even be a thing. Like, the funding might not even be a thing. This is written to a left-wing audience. The only people who read CNN are Democrats and progressives, I promise you. And people like me who use it as information to further our Second Amendment rights. But, let's keep going. This is where it gets really juicy. But there is dissent from several key Republicans on that issue, talking about red flags. And others have already signaled they will not vote to raise the age at which someone can buy a gun to 21, the same age threshold that relates to alcohol purchases in most states. Again, political pressure, CNN's trying it. Hopes for a vote on a genuine package of reforms this week seems also to be dimming, injecting new uncertainty in the possibility of ultimate success. They are prepping their readers that this may not be what they want it to be. As Republican senators significantly curtail the breadth of the package, there are growing questions over whether the proposed legislation, when it emerges, would it be able to prevent the massacres in the situation, and indeed a spate of mass killings that erupted across the country over the weekend at bars, high school graduations, or outside a funeral. At some point, Democrats may have to consider whether they are prepared to accept a package that keeps getting smaller. Right there. That's it. At some point, Democrats may have to consider whether they are prepared to accept a package that keeps getting smaller. What we've been talking about on this channel is as it gets narrower, the Democrats can walk. They can balk away from this, and then it's on them for walking away for gun control legislation. This is really, really important because CNN is even noticing that this might occur. While a reform package might go further than Washington has gone in years to respond to gun violence, it already looks likely to fall well short of even initial Democratic hopes and would pale in comparison to the size of the problem. It is also taking place amid anticipation that the Supreme Court will soon significantly loosen gun restrictions in New York State, and city officials are already warning such a decision could spike gun crime. Everything in this article is pointing to the fact that Democrats may not be able to support this because their far-left base would have a very large problem. Very similarly to the far-right base would say, you're not touching our guns in any way, shape, or form. It's almost the exact same mirror, but the Democrats are more in a problem situation here because they have to do something, but if they walk away, it's on them. This is a developing situation. Make sure you guys check back. As soon as I get the bills, any kind of details, I will send them your way, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you at the 9 p.m. segment tonight.